Okay, so we are going to be converting measurements today, but before we do that, I wanted to show you a couple little tricks that will help you with multiplying and dividing in the metric system. So when we're on page 56 right now in your journal and it's blank. So we're going to write down a couple of problems and I'm going to show you a shortcut. So you are multiplying a half or 5/10 and making it 100 times bigger. All right, so instead of setting up your problem and doing it like this and having all these zeros, what you can do is, since it's 100 times bigger, we're going to move our decimal to the right because that would make that number bigger every time I move that decimal, a place value to the right. So this being 100 times bigger, we're going to make this number 100 times bigger. It has 2 zeros, and we're moving it 2 places to the right. Putting our decimal, an empty spot will be filled up with a placeholder of 0. So a half times 100 would be 50, because that's going to be an extra 0. So that's a shortcut for multiplying by something that has all ones and zeros, something that's a multiple of 10. So 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, and so forth. So another example would be 7/100 times 1,000. So maybe you set up your proportion and you are trying to multiply these the easy way by moving your decimal. So since this is times 1 and zeros, okay, since a multiple of 10, what you can do is when you're multiplying by 1, it doesn't change anything. So this is why this trick works. So you're making it 1,000 times bigger. You're going to move your decimal to the right 1, 2, 3 times. So 1, 2, 3 times. And you're going to put a placeholder. So that becomes 70. So what if you are dividing? So let's say you have 7 divided by 100. So when you have a whole number, there's always an invisible decimal right here, much like if it was $7. So sometimes if it's a whole number, you have to actually put that invisible decimal there, and we're going to divide it by 100. We're going to make it 100 times smaller. So we are going to move it to the left 1, 2 times. 1, 2 times. Put your decimal. It's its new spot. Put your placeholder of 0. Now this one's gone. And now you have 7/100. So on another little note, when you have 7 divided by 100 and you notice this is smaller than this and you have whole numbers, if you would write, instead of 7 divided by 100 with the division sign, you can write 7 divided by 100. Well, now you've written your answer. That's 7/100. That's 7/100. So let's try one more. We have 2 3/10 divided by 1,000. So we have 2 3/10. We're dividing it into 1,000 pieces. We're moving it and we're making it smaller. 1, 2, 3. So that's like dividing by 10, dividing by 100, dividing by 1,000. So that becomes 23/10,000. All right, so let's look at page 52. So it says Harry, the dog's height is 1 meter and 30 centimeters. How tall is Harry's dog in millimeters? So they want us to change this right here into millimeters. So since these are 2 separate units, it's kind of like our height being, 5 foot 7 inches. So those are 2 different units. And so if I wanted to explain my height with one number, instead of 5 foot 7 inches, I might say 67 inches. So I took my feet and I changed it to inches and then added that extra 7 inches. So we're going to do the same thing here. So 1 meter, I looked on my purple sheet, okay, on your purple sheet that I gave you, and it is 100 centimeters in 1 meter. And then I had these extra centimeters. So I have centimeters and centimeters now. So if Harry's dog is 100 centimeters and another 30 centimeters, that's a total of 130 centimeters. So we're going to set up our proportion like we've been doing for the last 8 or 9 days. All right, so we have our proportion. So I set it up where whatever they give me, I put here, and then whatever it's asking for, I put here. Now guys, this ratio can be put over here as well. All right, so these two can be switched as long as centimeters is with centimeters and millimeters is with millimeters. And one of your ratios comes from your purple sheet. Okay, so let's look here. There's 1 centimeter and 10 millimeters. So 1 centimeter and 10 millimeters. So this ratio, these two numbers come off of your reference materials, off your purple sheet. And now you solve like we've always solved proportions. We cross multiply, okay, times 10. Now remember our shortcut, put your decimal. If I'm multiplying by 10, I'm moving it to the right. I have 1 0, so I'm moving it one place to the right. And I'm putting a 0 here. So that becomes 1,300 millimeters. So 1,300 millimeters is actually equal to 130 centimeters. So it's the same length, it's the same height for the dog, it's just written in 2 different units. So let's look here. An office building floor has a perimeter of 5,550 feet. What is the perimeter of the floor in yards? So again, perimeter is just a way that they're describing this length. So they're saying we want to know 5,550 feet. Well, what is that length in yards? Okay, so 5,550 feet is how many yards? So we did feet over yards, so we do feet over yards. This comes from your purple sheet. So there's 3 feet and 1 yard. And I would find that right here. 3 feet and 1 yard. All right, so I'm going to cross multiply. So 1 times 5,550 is 5,550 divided by 3, and I'm going to get 1,850 yards, which is A. All right, on this number 3, Mr. Seville is mailing a large box that weighs 32 pounds. The post office charges by the ounce to mail the boxes. How much does the box weigh in ounces? So they want us to change 32 pounds to how many equals how many ounces, because they're going to give you the price per ounce, so you have to figure out how many ounces. So we have pounds and ounces. Look on your purple sheet. So 1 pound is going to be 16 ounces. 1 pound is going to be 16 ounces. You have to make sure the right numbers go with the right labels. Cross multiply. 32 times 16 is 512. Divided by 1 is still 512. So on your homework, all right, make sure that you are setting up your proportions on another sheet. I have attached this on the Google Classroom page. And when you get here, these are 4 separate answers, okay? So you have 2 pieces of lace. One piece, this is one piece, and this is one piece. So one of your pieces is 24 inches long. I want to know how many feet that is. So set up a proportion. 24 inches is how many feet. And then you're going to do the same thing to find how many yards. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 separate answers, so you should have 4 separate proportions set up. So on this one, you would set up 6 yards over how many feet, and then draw your proportion. On this one right here, your meters and your kilometers, all of your metric, go ahead and use your decimal trick that I taught you, okay?